Hello, everyone. I see that we have quite a few participants here. As I said, some familiar faces that I'm happy to see that all of you are here on time. So again, I just want to welcome everyone, and I just would like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, looking at the time that this is for this informative session. My name is Marcus Myers. I am the Information Officer at the Barbados Accreditation Council, and I am with my colleague, Miss Requell Griffith. She is the Administrative Officer 1, but she is also in charge of liaising between us and the CARICOM Secretariat. Now, to make the best use of your time, I'm going to basically highlight the agenda for today. We're going to start off with about 10 minutes, first of all, speaking about the BAC and its services, because from the survey that we've conducted with the cultural practitioners, we found that there are many persons that have never heard of the BAC, and there are some services that we have that may be of use to you. But that's going to be about for 7 to 10 minutes. From there, I will defer to Ms. Griffith to go into the details and the weeds of the CARICOM Skills Certificate and its benefits. After that will be a question and answer for about 30 minutes. And for that 30 minutes, feel free to ask any questions that you want, but throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat box and we will start the presentation. So we'll start the question and answer segment with those questions first. So with that being said, we can begin. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. And I'm going to make this. Okay, just let me know if everyone can see. I'm seeing a thumbs up.
Yeah, you can see.
You can see?
Yep.
Great. Great. All right. Okay, so basically to start off with the functions.
No, she's in class. Yeah, but what part of what? She did.
Sorry, please mute your mic, please. I know that we're getting used to these these technical ways of doing information sessions. It's definitely we have some we have difficulties all the time, but we're gonna get used to it though. But I'm gonna speak about the functions of the BAC. So basically, the Barbados Accreditation Council was established in 2004 by an act of Parliament and is responsible for the quality assurance and quality enhancement of post-secondary institutions and training providers in Barbados. So basically, what does all of that mean? There are two broad roles that you can put the Barbados Accreditation Council in. The one role that we carry out is the registration and re-registration and accreditation and re-accreditation of educational providers and their programs of study. Now, what is registration? Registration basically means that in order to function as an educational provider and provide education for persons, you must meet a minimum requirement and minimum standards to operate legally. So this is basically the bare minimum beginning of then you becoming accredited. Now, registration is important because there are many institutions out there that are not registered that do not meet the standard for education. And that is very important that you make sure that you do that investigation before you, as a prospective enrollee, enroll at any institution. So basically, registration and accreditation for cultural providers is important because in the event that you want to further your education I would say that you should consider coming to the Accreditation Council and just verifying whether or not the institution of interest is one that is registered, or better yet, accredited. Now, accreditation is a step above registration, which is a voluntary step where you then know, as an institution or a program, you meet international standards that will make you recognized. And that stamp of approval is one that will be recognized not only in the region, but globally. So registration and accreditation are very important for prospective enrollees. And I know that there are also many cultural practitioners out there that would want to use their skills and teach at some point. We have quite a few persons that come. We have quite a few persons that come to the council for the purpose of. Sorry, one second. I'm seeing this window. Right, we have persons that come to the council for the sole purpose of starting a school or starting a program. And for any cultural practitioners that are interested in doing that, it is important that you understand the benefits of accreditation and re-registration. The next broad role is one that we're going to get into, and which is the reason why you're here, and is that we grant certificates of recognition to eligible CARICOM nationals and to examine and verify certificates of recognition issued to CARICOM community nationals by other member states. So what does that all mean? So Ms. Griffith is going to get into this in a minute, but basically that means many persons in Barbados have a certain set of skills, right? And you can fall into certain categories. Now you could be a musician, you could be an artist, you can be a teacher, nurses, graduates. What if if the skill that you use and you benefit from financially, what if there was a way and an official document that would allow you to use that skill in other places across the region? This is basically how the CARICOM Skills Certificate emerged. Many years ago, CARICOM leaders came together and said that there needs to be a way for skilled nationals to move more freely in the region, so that even in areas where their skill may be in higher demand, that they can then travel to those countries and benefit. So that is basically in a nutshell what the certificate of recognition is. But all of the details I will leave for Requell to use that to your advantage. Hello, Ms. Howell, can you please mute your mic?
Hello, Ms. Howell, can you please mute your mic?
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so yes, registration. As I said, with registration, it meets the minimum standards, and registration provides an overview of the operations and educational offerings of the provider. Now, again, it does not confer a particular standing or guarantee of quality or of recognition to the programs or courses offered by the provider. So it is very important that even if you do go to a registered school with that is registered with the council, that you remember that registration and accreditation are two different things, and you have to really consider that wherever you want to pursue your education next. Accreditation, as I explained, is a step above registration, and is a process in which a program of study or institution is assessed for its standard and given official recognition. So when it comes to the accreditation process, we have a quality assurance team that will ensure that if you do go through the accreditation process, that every aspect of your school is investigated. That would include the quality of the syllabus. That would include a site visit to the institution. That would include looking at what is the quality of the teachers that are there. And it's overall just to do a rigorous investigation to make sure that you meet that international requirement. So just to go through the benefits of accreditation, I will put it in cultural practitioner terms. For anybody that is an entrepreneur or has a small business or is a cultural practitioner, understands the importance of branding and the importance of having a solid brand for whatever business that you have. Basically, the benefits of accreditation would be that it lends prestige to the organization, that it aids with bringing in student recruitment efforts. So if you have that accreditation stamp, it's going to be easy to recruit students. It's going to be easier for budgetary requests. It'll be easier for highlighting and identifying the capabilities and competencies of the institution, and provides the foundation for the social audit of physical, human, and financial resources on which the institution may build. It provides the institution with a useful analysis, needs analysis through the social audit, establishes institutional accountability to key stakeholders, and encourages overall self-evaluation and forward planning that may be advantageous to the long-term financial viability of the institution. So all things you should think about in the event that you decide to pursue starting a school or a program to get that program accreditation, because the quality assurance team that we have will help you through that process. So that is the first role of the Barbados Accreditation Council. And from here now, I am going to pass off to Ms. Griffith to really get into the details of the CARICOM Skills Certificate.
Good evening, everyone. Let me apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties on my laptop. So the screen is going in and out. So if you lose me visually, meaning if you don't see my face anymore, don't mind, just know that it's not that I don't want you to see me, it's just that my laptop is having a mind of its own today. All right, so Marcus would have given the intro, which would have spoken to the services of the Barbados Accreditation Council. What I will be taking a look at now will be a more in-depth look at the CSME certificate process, or skill certificate, as most persons refer to it as. I'm going to ask those persons who, other persons, to just mute their mics for me so we don't have the feedback. And as Marcus would have mentioned at the start, if you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat box. Those ones we would answer first, and then any other questions we can hold on to the end of the presentation. Okay. So the CARICOM Skills Market and Economy Certificate of Recognition, CARICOM Skills Qualification. It's quite a mouthful. Most persons, like I noted, refer to it as the skills qualification. So what are the functions of the BAC, the Barbados Accreditation Council? Under this particular service, our main functions are to examine and verify certificates of recognition of CARICOM skills qualification issued to community nationals, and to grant certificates in accordance with Section 6.1 and 7 of the Caribbean Community Movement of Skills Nationals Act. Okay, so let me just take a look at those items there for you. So the CARICOM Skills Act, it speaks to, this act removed the restrictions on entry into Barbados for all Caribbean community skilled nationals qualifying under the community states. And this allows persons basically free movement and the ability to work within a particular member state. So free movement of skilled labor. Now this is provided under Chapter 3 of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Treaty of Chaguaramas, but the Treaty of Chaguaramas under Articles 45 and 46 basically speak to who the skills national members are. And it also details who will qualify to be able to apply for a skills certificate. The treaty also speaks to member states having established appropriate legislation and administrative procedures to facilitate this process. So the Barbados Accreditation Council would have been started as an act of government. And because of that act, that's how we are able then to operate. So part of the administrative arrangements that the treaty speaks to will be facilitated under the Accreditation Council. And according, so now what are the benefits of the Accreditation Council, or rather of the Skills Certificate? So it's hassle-free travel, facilitation of travel, no need to apply for a work permit. And a lot of the times with persons, one of the main restrictions for persons wanting to take up positions overseas or in other CARICOM nations would be the hassle of having to apply for a skills certificate, having to apply for, having to apply to the governments there for a work permit. The free movement enables gainful economic activity. So it means it is not just a means to move or to live, but it means that you must be a gainful employed person, not for wage earners, and is a recognition of skills throughout the region. So the skills certificate allows persons to identify themselves within particular skill categories. And this can be something that can be across the region. All right, so who are qualified under the Caribbean Community States, sorry. So the member countries, there are several member countries that are qualified or that we note as member states. We have Antigua and Barbados, obviously, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago. And in addition to those states, Barbados also facilitates free movement of nationals out of Montserrat. Now we can take a look now at the categories.
Going through right now.
Pardon? I didn't hear that. Okay. So we're going to take a look now at the categories, those persons, the areas under which you can apply for a skill certificate. So first up, we have university graduates. And for university graduates, they are persons who have obtained at least a bachelor's degree from a recognized university or a qualification which was assessed by the BAC as equivalent to that of a bachelor's degree. So persons who have attended University of the West Indies or any other form of university, those will be the persons who would qualify under this particular heading as a graduate. Next up, we have media persons. And media persons would include those persons like media managers and administrators, editors, sub-editors, reporters, producers, announcers, camera operators, graphic artists, cartoonists, photographers, persons working in the newsroom, programmers, editorial staff, all the such like. Those will be the persons who we would categorize as media persons. Next up, we have artists. And artists include such persons as visual artists. We have performance artists, we have literal artists, we have cultural workers, managers, technicians, and this is the area where this is where most of you should fall, or who we would focus today's session primarily on, those particular persons falling under that artist section. The other category we have will be musicians. And for musicians, those would be persons including players of musical instruments. We have singers, we have orchestra leaders, conductors, promoters, event managers. All those are examples of persons who can fall under that particular category. Sports persons. For sports persons, these will be such persons like athletes, coaches, team leaders. We have sports promoters, massage therapists, event managers. Professional nurses. And professional nurses speak to those persons who are registered nurses. So if you have completed a basic or higher level training for nursing and who are registered with the General Nursing Council of the Caribbean member state, those persons will be designated as registered nurses, and fall under that particular category. Just hold one moment for me, please. All right, next up, the next category up, we see here will be agricultural workers. Agricultural workers were one of the newer categories added. We would have started with some main areas, and then as we saw the demand, and when I say we, I mean the CARICOM member states, as we saw the demand for the skill certificate, particular categories then were added. So agricultural workers, one of those categories that was added, and the agricultural worker, that person speaks to a person who's working in the field of agriculture, farmers, any person working in the field of agriculture, primarily farmers. Teachers or registered teachers, persons in the teaching fraternity, persons who have successfully completed an approved pre-service or in-service teaching preparation program from an accredited or recognized institution offering teaching education. So that covers a spectrum of teaching professionals. Next category is artisan. And an artisan will be a person who is a skilled workman or craftsman, craft and related workers who apply their specific skills and knowledge in the field of mining, construction, printing, can have food processing, textiles, wooden, metal, or other articles. So this can include persons who erect structures, who set machine tools or make to fit those type of items, who repair machinery or equipment or other tools, who carry out printing works, or who even produce or process foodstuff, textiles, wood, metal, or other articles, or who supervise workers who do such like. All those will fall under that heading of artisans. The next heading would be holders of the associate degree or comparative qualification. Now, the holder of an associate degree, this will generally be someone who's obtained an associate degree from an accredited or recognized institution. So here in Barbados, generally those will be persons who have graduated from the Barbados Community College and have a qualification identified for this purpose, or which is comparable to an associate degree. So when we say a comparable qualification, now this will speak to persons with CSC CAPE, and it must be that you have 2 units for 2 A-levels, 2 subjects. So if you have taken 2 particular courses, it must be level A and level 1 and level 2 of that particular course. 2 of those will qualify you under this particular heading. Also qualifying under this particular category will be those persons who are certified accounting technicians qualification, national technician certificates requiring at least 2 years of post-secondary study, and any other comparative qualification which is deemed qualifying by the member state. The other category we have, I would have mentioned agriculture worker. The next category would be household domestics. Household domestics, and under household domestics, this would include persons who deal in housekeeping, persons who have qualified with who have regained qualification to work in the industry then of housekeeping or house domestics. This is also another new category, one of the newer categories added. And last up should be security guards. And this is one of the newest categories added. And this will speak to those persons working in the security field or security operations. Now, these categories, obviously we weren't able, or the member states aren't able to capture all the different professions that exist within the Caribbean. But we have found that these have been the ones that have been highly demanded, and the need for transference amongst different member states has been high. And that would have been the rationale behind having these particular persons then as these particular categories included for qualifying for the skills certificate. Next up, we're going to take a look at the documentation now that will be required if you are applying for a skills certificate. So if you come into the BAC and you want to apply for a skills certificate, there's particular documentation that will be required. So the general documentation required for all applicants that would include your birth certificate, proof of registration, proof of status as a CARICOM National, and generally proof of status as a CARICOM National can be found on your passport or in your passport. Your qualifications, proof of registration with a professional agency, and this is where it's applicable. So those persons applying under teacher, under nursing, those areas, those particular categories. Well, those categories are examples of those which would have a professional agency, which would mean that you would have to show some proof of registration with that professional agency. You would need your passport, letters from previous employers, a marriage certificate if it's applicable, 2 passport size photos. And what has also been added quite recently have been 2 letters of reference. Right? So once you are interested in applying for a skills certificate, those are the main documentation that will be required then for all applicants. So let's take a closer look now at the documentation specific now to categories. So as it relates to the graduates, I would have noted at least a bachelor's degree from a recognized university. So you'll be required to bring an original copy, that's oxymoron. We expect you to bring the original qualifications, your original degree as issued by University of West Indies or any other university in which you would have attended. For artists, musicians, sports person, and media persons, media workers, letters from the respective national federation. So if you are part of NCF, we would expect a letter from the NCF, basically stating that you are part of the organization in whatever form, whether you're a musician, whether you are a singer, whether you are a dancer. So these letters will clearly state the function, as I was noted, which you operate under that particular heading. For artists, for agricultural worker, under artists, you also require a copy of relevant qualifications. So granted, for all the areas, we would require relevant qualifications, but you would need relevant qualifications in the field of art, music, sports, teaching, education, all those areas. Next up, agricultural worker. And for the agricultural worker, you're required to submit a Caribbean vocational qualification or a national vocational qualification, which would normally be a qualification received from, in Barbados, that's the TVET Council, or the Barbados Vocational Training Board, or any other form of qualification which is of that level. Now, you may ask, how would I know if it's of that level? Once you come into the Accreditation Council, we would be able to let you know whether that particular qualification that you present, whether it can be accepted, and then give advice on what else you can bring if that is not sufficient. Next category, under professional nurses, a letter from the General Nursing Council of the Caribbean member state, which would clearly state that the applicant is registered as a nurse. Now, we would have had persons applying or wishing to apply under this category as auxiliary nurses. And right now, we don't facilitate auxiliary nurses. The applicant would have to be a registered nurse, providing that evidence then from the Nursing Council of that particular member state. For artisan, the applicant would have to submit a Caribbean vocational qualification, a national vocational qualification. And I would have mentioned just now the TVET Council or the Barbados Vocational Training Board, qualifications of that nature. Persons obviously might have done training also at SJPI. All those type of qualifications are accepted for this particular category. That will be documentation required. Holders of an associate degree or comparative qualification. So the associate degree, we would expect you to produce your original qualification as provided by Barbados Community College, or your qualifications as provided by CSC, Caribbean Examination Council. You can also provide your certified accountant technician qualification or your national technician certificate, both requiring at least, not both, sorry, the national technician certificate requiring at least 2 years of study of post-secondary level. That particular part is very important because the skills certificate does not cater to secondary level courses. It must be a post-secondary level qualification. All right. So we can take a look now at the certifying competent authorities. So now applicants may be required to undergo an assessment to determine their level of eligibility, right, based on the particular member state. And for Barbados specifically, those agencies would be the National Sports Council, and that would be for sports person, National Cultural Foundation, which is applicable to today's group for musicians, artists, the Government Information Service for media persons, General Nursing Council for professional nurses, the Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic, which is now renamed SJPI, for cosmetologists, for nail technicians, beauticians, persons falling under that cadre of work, Barbados Community College for persons, some persons falling under artisans, interior decorators, designers. So those are some examples. That is not an exhaustive list of agencies which we would work with, but those are some examples of some agencies which we would utilize if persons need to undergo a further assessment after submitting their application. Now, fees and processing time. This is something which is very pertinent. The fee for the application of a certificate is $100, and it is also $100 for the verification of a certificate. Let me touch very briefly on verification. So if you would have obtained a skills certificate in another member state, for instance, if you've come from Jamaica, if you've come from St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and you would have applied for a skills certificate in that particular country, or if you have applied for a certificate in Barbados. Actually, no, it won't be applicable to persons applying in Barbados. But if you've applied in another member state and you've come to Barbados now and you want to work in Barbados utilizing that skill certificate, you go through what is called a verification process. Usually persons coming in on entry to Barbados, the immigration personnel would advise persons to go to the Accreditation Council and have their certificate verified. And the verification basically is a process where we ensure that the certificate is legitimate, that it was issued to you, and that you are who you say you are. Okay? So that particular process incurs a fee of $100 as well. The processing time for the application is 7 working days, and for the verification is 10 working days. Now let me touch a bit now on the processing times. We say 7 working days, and 7 working days generally speaks to simple applications. There are times where applicants may need to provide further information, or we may need to seek further information from external agencies. Applicants, like I noted before, may have to go through an assessment, and all of those different things would extend the timeline for the processing of that particular application. So because of that, all of these things will be outside of the BSC's control, and that can extend, and that can lead to a extension past that 7 working days. So we normally ask applicants to bear that in mind when they're submitting their applications, also to ensure that they submit all or as much information as they can upon giving in their application, so as to cut down any delays or cut down any excess in processing time for their application. We ask persons to always be proactive, apply early. We often find persons offered a job or see a job advertised, apply for the job, get the job or shortlisted for the job, and a part of qualifying them to get this particular position is having a skill certificate. And this is jobs within the CARICOM member states. And then they make a mad rush to the Accreditation Council, hoping that they can get this certificate in time for their travel or in time for their final interview or such like. So we normally advise persons, apply early. The certificate does not expire, so there's no expiration date, meaning you won't have to apply and renew if you don't utilize it within a particular time frame. So apply early, get that application in, and have that skill certificate there. So when you do actually need to utilize it, if a job comes up and you are able then to take up that job, you don't have to have the hassle of then thinking about the skill certificate. So I am going to open up the floor to questions. I know there would have been persons who would have been populating the chat box. I saw the questions coming in as the presentation went on. So as Marcus would have noted when we started, we would take a look at those in the chat box first to answer those questions. So I'm seeing a question here saying, I am not seeing beauty professionals as yet. Yeah. We would have beauty professionals would fall under the particular heading of artists. Is it artists? I would have mentioned beauty professionals when I did the explanation of who falls under particular headings. So the beauty professionals would have fallen under the artisans, which are skilled persons. So whether you're skilled in nail technology, you're skilled in massage, you're skilled in cosmetology, you can apply under artisans, under the category of artisans, and qualify for the skill certificate. So today's session was geared primarily to the cultural practitioners, but I know we would have had persons logging in from all different categories. But for beauty professionals, that is where you would apply. I'm seeing here, Bonita Boyce asked to expand on teachers. I don't know if you can say a little bit more where you want expanded, Bonita?
I was asked, good afternoon, this is Bonita Boyce. I was asking to expand a little bit more on the certification required for vocational teachers, because you would see that primary teachers, etc., would have gone through Earlston, but vocational teachers do not necessarily go through that process. So how would they, can they, and what would they need to show for their qualification?
Now, for vocational teachers, they would have to provide a certificate from the training unit training institute that they would have attended. But it depends on what that qualification is and whether they can also receive documentation from the teachers union or the teacher association that would also support them being a part of that particular category. If that's not the case, then it would mean that they may have to apply as an artist, under artisan, which would be a skilled professional having that particular qualification still. That's provided any clarity for you?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
After Bonita, and Marcus, you can jump in here if you see any questions that I may miss, because I'm trying to go through the chat.
Well, I got a private question. I got a question from somebody that who says that they are from what they see that they're falling under two categories. How do they decide which category they should apply under?
Well, generally, you can only apply under one category. So what I would normally recommend is wherever you have the stronger qualification, that is really the area that you should apply under. So some persons may have like a vocational qualification, let's say in cosmetology, but they also have a degree from the University of the West Indies. So I would normally advise persons in that case, apply undergraduate, because that not necessarily that a qualification is stronger, but the qualification may require a shorter processing time. Right now, persons falling under the University of the West Indies throughout the Caribbean, so that's all three campuses, St. Augustine, Cayfield, and Mona, those, and the campus in Trinidad as well, those persons, what we say almost not automatically qualified, but because of the connection we have in the Caribbean with University of the West Indies, the processing time for that is a lot shorter. Outside of if you have a qualification from vocational training unit, where we may have to request that you go through an assessment, or you provide further information, whether it be a portfolio or whatever else. So I would normally recommend persons to apply under the category that they have the stronger qualification or the more qualifications to support.
There's a question in the chat box. Persons want to know if this is facilitated by the NCF.
I saw this question and I'm trying to understand exactly what is facilitated by NCF, if the provision of the letter or the application of the skills certificate.
I'm not sure, so you can answer both questions.
I saw Sandra Steele would have raised that question. If Sandra, you want to expand on what area you were speaking on specifically? You're still muted.
Yes, thank you. Right. I do remember at least starting the process, like I would have had the letter and you know, certifying that I was a certified cultural practitioner. And I would have started to get the information together, but I wasn't sure if it was being facilitated through the business development department, or if I had to take what I got from them and then come to you at the BAC. That's what I wasn't sure of.
Oh yes, so you would have to take what you receive from them and bring to the BAC. So okay. They would provide you with what you would have noted there were what we would call supporting documentation. So the letters showing that you're a cultural practitioner, any other documentation supporting your work in the field, all of that would be part of your application.
Okay.
So you would bring that into us, along with whatever other qualification you have in a particular area, and that would make a part of your application for as under that particular heading, particular category.
Okay, right. So we would just provide the documentation to you, and then that's basically it. Then that's basically it.
Yeah, so once you provide the documentation along with the application and all the other areas required to apply for the skills certificate, then your application then can be processed. So we normally would ask persons to get that information. So if you know you're a cultural practitioner and you're affiliated with the NCF, or even if you're not directly affiliated, you can contact the NCF and they would guide you on what documentation they can provide to you. Yeah? And that is what you bring to us.
Okay. And then is there a fee? That's what I was a little bit confused with.
There's a fee attached to the application. I'm not sure whether the registering agencies have a fee attached to providing letters.
Oh, no, but I mean, I meant for you all what the fee was. Sorry.
Right, so the application fee for the skills certificate, I would have noted that as $100.
Okay.
100 Barbados dollars.
And I'm jumping ahead to someone in the chat. I'll get back to one of these questions before him, but Winston asks, how long does the certificate last?
So the certificate does not expire, so it lasts as long as you're alive. Once you keep it safe and you don't lose it, it lasts as long as you're alive. There's no expiration date on the certificate.
Brandon asks, in regards to qualifications within documentation for the application, what would be considered a qualification if you're a visual artist?
So where would you have studied visual art? Brandon is still logged on?
Yeah.
Brandon, you mind unmuting and having a little discussion? I'm seeing Brandon here, but I'm not sure if he's still actually here. But it depends on where you would have gained your qualification, because with every application, then there must be a supporting qualification that goes along. So under every category, whether your qualification is a certificate, a vocational type certificate, whether it is a degree or associate degree or a qualification of that particular level, you will be required to submit some form of qualification showing that you have been trained in that particular area. Yeah? So for visual artists, whatever qualification you would have, whatever training you would have done to get you to the point of being a visual artist or practitioner in that area is what you would supply.
Oh, okay. Brandon says his mic wasn't working.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yes, he said he studied art with the the International Baccalaureate, which is equivalent to CAPE.
Right. So that's the qualification that you would bring in, and that would be your supporting documentation for your application. I'm also seeing a question from Robert Gibson. It says, what qualification will be needed for an editor? In most cases, persons falling under those particular headings would have done some form of post-secondary training, whether it be at the CAPE level or associate degree or a bachelor's. So that is the type of qualification that you would be expected then to bring to support your application.
All right. I just wanted to, well, I'm asking that specifically. I guess you answered that question for me in a sense, because you said, I did wonder if I'm under two
headings.
Yeah. Right? Which would be editing and performing.
Okay.
So the editing, however, I guess I was asking because the editing is not something that I've trained for. It's just something that I've done
that you developed over time.
because I've published 6 of my own books, so now I have the skill to help people edit theirs. So that was what I was asking for.
Okay, so in that case now, you would utilize the books that you would have published or edited as part of your portfolio if you were only applying under the heading of editor. If you were only applying as an editor, then you would use that as a portfolio. So like I would have noted, sometimes we request additional information from persons to help support their application. So in your case, then we would request a portfolio which would include that particular information. Yes.
Which would be my 6 books plus the 20 odd books that I've done for other people.
Yes, yes.
Okay. This question. That's all right.
But that would support your application, and then it can go through with that. I'm also seeing another question here saying, what about persons who have international qualifications? And international qualifications are accepted. Mr. Marcus, we will use on first name basis here. Marcus would have mentioned in his intro some other services that we also have at the BSc. And one of those services would look at the vetting of qualifications. So if you apply with international qualification, because we do have persons who apply who obviously would have studied overseas, whether it be a bachelor degree, a master's degree, whether it be a vocational degree, vocational certificate, who've studied overseas and who want to utilize that particular certificate then for their application. We would vet that particular certificate, accepted, and we would check it. Right, we will go through part of the process. We'll be verifying that the certificate is legitimate and that you attended the institution. And so all of that will be used as part of the processing time. So for international qualifications, sometimes they might fall under the heading of persons who may go past that 7 working days, depending on how, I don't want to say cooperative, but how responsive the agency, the international agency is in getting back to the BSc. But we do accept international qualifications. All right, going through the questions. I'm seeing here, the Barbados Beauty Professionals Association can also be used as an assessment along with the TVET. And I'm kind of glad that I saw that comment, or rather that, because that's not a question, that's more of a statement. And we're hoping to have a further discussion with that particular association so that we can fine tune the requirements for that particular area. So I'm not sure if Marcus would have mentioned in the beginning or even in the promotion of this particular session, but we're looking at having these types of meetings to sensitize persons in particular categories. Outside of persons not knowing much about the skills certificate and much of the work of the BSc, we also know a lot of persons are unsure of what is required under their particular heading, or where they may fall, or what they may need to have, or whether they qualify at all. So we want to have further conversations like these with persons falling under particular headings. So you should see coming down soon. I don't want to pronounce your name incorrectly, but you should see some information coming soon specific to the beauty professionals. And we may even have that one-on-one conversation with you guys first, or so that we can further the applications or further the reach for persons within that particular area.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm the representative to Sasha, and Bonita, we're also from the association, so thank you for having me.
To Sasha?
To Sasha.
To Sasha, okay. I didn't want to, listen, my name is very hard to pronounce sometimes, so I respect people's names and I try not to mispronounce. So if you see me speaking to your comment and not attempting your name, it's because I don't want to mispronounce your name. I hear people call Requell all sorts of things. So
Sasha's fine.
Sasha's fine. Okay, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
I received another personal question, and I think I could start with Robert's question.
Okay.
Same as Frank's question. Why don't you allow multiple certificates for multiple skill sets for the same person?
Okay, so generally, the skill certificate is not like your normal qualification. It's not. Let me start by saying it is not a qualification, right? The skill certificate. So, for instance, let me just give this example. On my very first day at the BSc, my very first day, within my very first hour, in fact, within my very first half hour at the BSc, I was met with an applicant who had already received a skill certificate under the category of teacher. Since being a teacher, he went on and he did a master's and he did a PhD. And he wanted now to apply under the heading of graduate, because in his eyes, the graduate now is a more elevated qualification, right? So what we said to him is, the skill certificate is not a qualification that would allow you to get a job. The skill certificate is a certificate which allows you entry into the nation state, and allows you to work within that nation state. The certificate says I'm skilled and I've been qualified as a skilled national and I can work within this country, because this country is part of the CARICOM nation states. What qualifies you to get a particular job will be your individual qualifications. So for instance, Robert, if you started out as a visual artist and you have qualifications in that particular area, but after working in that area for, let me say, 10 years, you've decided, no, I want to go ahead now and I want to become a teacher, or I want to become a doctor or a lawyer, and you accomplish that, and then you applied now, and you had already applied for a certificate under visual artist, you can still utilize that certificate. That certificate just allows you to work and to move freely into that country without having to require a work permit. But it wouldn't necessarily be used as your particular qualification to get a job.
Okay, so just, I think it explains it a little bit more, but I just wanted to be clear. So I haven't actually seen one. If you understand me, I haven't actually seen one yet. So when I think of a certificate, it says, like, the certificate that I got, let's say, from the NCF, showing that I'm a cultural practitioner. It literally says that I'm a cultural practitioner. So when I think of the certificate in this case, and because they have such specific sections or roles, that's why I asked the question. If I sign up as a performance artist or as an artist, then will it say Robert Gibson has signed up under artist? Therefore, because that's what I'm thinking. That's why if I go in now and I come and I wanna use it, well, you're explaining it to me, but again, as I say, I'm not seeing it. I haven't actually seen one. So I thought in my head it specifically stated what I was under, which meant then I could use it for something else.
No, so the certificate itself, and I'm sorry that I didn't have one I can show you. The certificate would have the category under which you apply. So on the application form, it would have the category that you would select, and then it would have the area that you work in, right?
Right, but then
the certificate won't be specific to that area. It wouldn't have, if you apply under artisan, it wouldn't have visual. If you apply under artisan, it wouldn't have visual artists. It would just have, well, maybe not, category artist.
Right. Well, I guess I can use my editing skills under my artisan, under the artisan role. But that was my thought process. I'm not a visual artist and a performance artist at the same time. I'm an editor, and that's what my day job is, right? So I edit books. So this is where I was confused, because when I saw editing under media, and then I see artisan. So if like, so you see where my quandary is.
I understand. But again, I want to reinforce that the skill certificate is not used as your qualification. So even it is just so that persons, because generally what employers would take the certificate is so that they don't have to apply for a work permit for you. And the process to go through for the work permit and the costs associated with that, they won't be able to hire you as if you are a national of that particular country. So that's what the skill certificate facilitates. So even if you have the skill certificate as an editor or a visual artist, and you have decided to improve yourself, or rather further study, not let me say improve, study further, and you've gained another qualification, you can still utilize the skill certificate. because your qualification, your qualifying for the skill certificate has not changed. Just what your qualifications have changed. I hope clear. You understand?
It's clear. Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Clear as water or clear as mud?
Water, definitely. I'll do it as an artist, and I'll keep it. If I have the choice, as you say, that's where that's where I have the stronger qualifying documentation. So I'll do it under that.
Let me draw another example. Suppose you're single. Well, for females, because males don't change your last name. You're single and you apply for the skill certificate. Yeah. Since you apply for the skill certificate, you met the man of your life, the man of your dreams, and you got married. You don't need to change your skill certificate. You don't need to change the certificate. What you would need to do is to have your birth certificate, your marriage certificate available to the immigration department in that particular country to show that since receiving the certificate, I was married, right? So that's another example of utilizing the same certificate, but the certificate is only to use for entry and for work in the country. Yeah, I figured that would be one of the questions. So I answered that one there off the bat as well. We do have a lot of people calling about, I got married and I want to apply for a new certificate because my name has changed, but it's not required once you are in hand of your marriage certificate. We ask you to present both the skill certificate and your marriage certificate.
I'm seeing an interesting question from Andre Woodvine. He asked, if I'm invited to perform at a single concert in Trinidad and the concert promoter only has me in the country for 72 hours, how would my skill certificate be verified in Trinidad?
But you will need the skill certificate in that particular instance, because remember, the skill certificate is if you want to live and work in that country. So if you are moving to Trinidad to perform in Trinidad and to play and work in Trinidad consistently, then you would need the skill certificate. Yeah. But if you are just flying in for one concert and flying back out, you won't necessarily need the skill certificate to be verified and to go through that process. I'm not saying don't apply for the skill certificate. Don't get me wrong, Andre. Apply for the skill certificate, have it in hand, but you would only require it verified and that whole process if you want to live and work in that particular member state. Another question I'm seeing here from, it looks like Denise Blackman. How successful has it been so far? Is it something that people do regularly, or is there a lot of work available in other member countries for persons in the creative industries? We are seeing a lot of persons applying for skill certificates, especially in the recent past. And I would allude that to COVID and persons, some persons being, well, I won't use the word stuck, but being here, coming out to university and not being able to fly back into their country for whatever reason, or being here and wanting to seek employment here. So we have seen a lot more persons applying for skill certificates, and we do see a lot of persons still traveling during this time now to live and to move into other CARICOM nations and requiring skill certificates, which was another reason why I said to apply early and to apply, have it in hand so that you won't need to have that rush if you see a job come up, because sometimes you see a very short timeline for jobs. The person likes your qualifications and want you to start in a month or want you to start in 2 weeks. And I know persons, the moving process entails a lot. And sometimes the last thought is, oh shoot, I need to apply for a skill certificate. So you want to make sure that you have it in hand so that you don't have a mad rush. And you have to beg our persons and call every day to try to get us to get the certificate for you sooner than what would normally be the time frame. I saw another question in the box about Faith would have noted I did the bachelor's in media and journalism at the Barbados Community College and gained my degree last year. Congratulations. Since then, I have been calling the council, leaving messages to find out if the degree is accredited, as BCC has provided no feedback. and I want to apply for the skill certificate. So yes, you can apply for the skill certificate. The BCC, their qualification would fall under, this qualification would fall under graduate, because you would have gained a bachelor's from the Barbados Community College. So you can apply using this qualification. I know that there has been some backlog for some of the institutions in providing certificates. Up to December last year, some persons had not received their original qualifications. But I know some institutions have also been issuing letters in that regard to persons, so that if they need to do any business or apply for any positions or even for further study, that they can utilize that letter to know that I have successfully completed and in what area. So if you have not received your formal qualification, you can produce that letter, and there would also be a requirement for the school to send us an official transcript directly if you have not yet have your physical qualification. But yes, you can apply for the skill certificate. Any other questions sent to you personally, Marcus?
Well, that was one that was answered already. Just whether or not you can work in say a different field from what it is that you applied under. That was one that I had received.
Can a CARICOM, and I'm seeing another question here from SSS. Can a CARICOM citizen obtain a national registration number in Barbados? Also, what sort of driver's license are CARICOM citizens eligible for? All of that, unfortunately, falls outside of our purview. You would have to speak to the immigration department and the, well, in Barbados is electoral and boundaries, which will provide identification cards, and transport and works, which will provide licenses. But I'm sure if you contact the immigration department, if it's in Barbados or the other member countries, they'll be able to align you with the agency or the institution that you should speak to about getting that type of documentation. We won't be able to provide that. I'm a little bit outside of my purview.
And just to respond to, I'm seeing Santi. She asked whether or not the recording will be available. Yes, the recording will be made available of this Zoom meeting, and it will be sent through the NCF to persons who attended and also those who could not attend. So you will get that shortly.
I see Carson has his, no. Carson has their hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I think, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I think you had answered it, but I just want to be specific. It matters not the category that you are registered as a skilled national. It just matters that you're registered to work in the Caribbean country. Is that correct? So for example, I may be registered in one heading, but I may be applying for work in another area of expertise. What matters is the point that I'm registered. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so you're saying register, but you mean that you have the certificate?
Yes.
Right, so if once you have, because again, persons can continue to develop themselves. So it would be unreasonable for you to have to continuously apply for a skill certificate every time you gain a qualification, which may be higher than the one that you had previously, right? So the intent behind having the skill certificate is once you've qualified that you're a skilled national, that you can work and move freely within the CARICOM states. So we don't want to limit persons that, oh, you have to have a particular qualification, or if you gain another one, you have to apply. It's not used as your qualification.
Right, great. Okay, thanks for that clarity. Thank you very much.
I'm seeing another raised hand here. You can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, good afternoon. I have about 4 questions in the chat, but they seem to have been skipped.
Okay.
I would just ask.
Well, maybe we haven't gotten to it yet, because trust me, there are plenty questions that we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. What about taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Would we have to pay taxes in both countries, ours and the one that we're living and working in? That's the first question.
That falls, again, that's one of those questions that fall off of our purview. That would be something that you would have to speak to the Barbados Revenue Association, Barbados Revenue Authority in Barbados, or the relevant authority in that member state.
Okay, and the last question, who are the governing bodies that will work with you, the BSc, that will also work alongside the other member countries? So we are applying to the other country for the skill, sorry, here for the skill certificate. But what is the other governing body in the other country, say wanted to go to St. Kitts to work, that will accept the skill certificate from you in Barbados?
Okay, so you've applied in Barbados and you've got your skill certificate and you're traveling to St. Kitts, correct?
Yes.
Right. So once you fly into St. Kitts, immigration would normally ask you a couple questions, because generally you would have a one-way ticket to St. Kitts because you're moving. Immigration would normally ask you a couple questions on entry to St. Kitts and Nevis. And you can produce, you should produce your skill certificate at that point. Once you've produced your skill certificate to the immigration department within that country, they advise you on the agency who you need to go to have it verified. Yeah, most of the agencies in the Caribbean will fall under their Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Barbados is probably one of the only ones that falls under the Ministry of Education, but most of the agencies fall under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But the immigration officer and immigration department within that particular country will guide you accordingly. That's question two. You have two more.
Oh, let me go back. Okay, so there's someone who came to Barbados on the study permit, student permit. COVID kind of knocked out a lot of things, but they did finalize their studies. They gained their qualification. Can they, even though they're still here, they may not have their full citizenship or have applied for any other citizenship as yet? Can they
apply for the skill certificate,
or they will have to apply for a work permit to stay here? They are from another member state, so but they have to apply now for a work permit, or can they use the qualification here and apply through you and stay here and then live and work?
So I would have mentioned in one of my examples slightly not so long ago about persons not necessarily being stuck here, but you alluded to COVID restricting persons flying back home and choosing to stay in Barbados instead to seek employment here. Now, once you have a qualification and once you can fall under one of the categories identified, you can apply. So you don't have to be a Barbadian to apply in Barbados. You can be a St. Vincent, a Vincentian applying in Barbados. You can be a St. Lucian applying in Barbados. You can be a Jamaican applying in Barbados. We see it every day. We have persons applying who are from all different nationalities, all different CARICOM nationalities, applying for skill certificates in Barbados. Now, once you qualify for that skill certificate, you've made your application, it's been approved, and you've received your skill certificate. What we would advise you at that point on receiving is to take that skill certificate to the immigration department. The immigration department then will utilize that then to determine your stay within the country. Yeah, we can't guide you on exactly what they will tell you, but we will tell you to take the certificate to the immigration department.
Okay.
One more question, or that was all your questions?
No, one more question. You did mention about graduates applying with that particular certificate, even though they may be an artisan, a housekeeper, or whatever, but they may have CXCs, KATE, whatever, but so they would apply with that qualification, and that would be the highest/lowest one that they can apply with. Or what if they just went to secondary school and got their 5 CXCs, 6 CXCs, etc.? Can they still apply with the CXCs, or it has to be a bachelor, it has to be associate degree, etc.?
It has to be a post-secondary qualification. So we don't use the term highest and lowest. We just have different categories, but it has to be a qualification that you've obtained post-secondary. So the only qualification that you can gain that can give you access to a skill certificate while you are at a secondary school would be KATE. Yeah, would be the CSE A-levels or KATE. That's the only one, because that is still a post-secondary type qualification. But you won't be able to utilize just your CSE subjects to qualify. It would need to be a post-secondary qualification to gain the skill certificate.
Okay, so based on your statement then, if I then would have attended either an evening program at a said secondary school which offers evening adult programs, or if I went to the Cave Hill campus, open campus Cave Hill, or if I went to the O-level institute and received qualifications, whether Cape or CSCs, how will that go? Yes, that's tertiary, but not to that level that y'all are looking for?
It would have to be above the normal CSC qualification. So it won't be your normal CSCs that you can submit. It would have to be Cape and above.
Right. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
No problem. I'm seeing a question from Michael that says, what about certificates from St. Maarten? So I would have noted before, we do accept international qualifications. So if you received a certificate or a degree or from an institution in a different country, you can utilize that certificate to apply for the skill certificate.
Sorry,
Sandra,
I saw Micah turned on his mic, his video. Micah, you had anything you wanted to ask?
To add to? Yeah.
Oh, yes, please. Basically, I just wanted to find out. So if I wanted to migrate to St. Maarten, I wanted to know if if St. Maarten will be one of the countries that is on the list, seeing that the Dutch side of St. Maarten is a CARICOM country.
Well, it's not necessarily just those countries that fall in CARICOM. It would be those countries that have signed on to this particular legislation, right? So unfortunately, Maarten is not one of those countries that have signed on.
Okay.
So those would not be one that fall under the qualifying Caribbean community states.
Okay. All right, thanks.
No problem.
I'm going to answer this, these two questions. Is the BAC office currently open, and what are the office hours? Yes, the BAC is open and the office hours are 8:15 to 4:30. And someone also asked if these, if any of these question and answers would be on our website. We do have a lot of information on our website that would definitely get you through the process. So I do encourage all of you that want to further this process and get your application as soon as possible into the BAC to go to www.bac.gov.bb. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. And yeah, that is our official website, and anything that you need to know should be there. But of course, you can also call us, and I will leave the number as well, but it's 535-6740. 535-6740.
We still have a lot of questions in the box. I want to try to get through as much as possible. Can applications only be made in person? Right now, our online facility for applications is not up and running yet. So you can fill out the application form online, print it, but you need to bring it in person. Yes, you need to bring it in person for the application to start. With reference to Andres Woodvine's question about a quick turnaround projects, it will be useful for the certificate to be entry document for one to work. Has this been considered? I'm not sure if Mr. Mapp, you wanna expand on this a little bit on what you meant by entry document?
Yes, certainly. Right. So I work a lot with visual artists, and we do trade shows, exhibitions, trade shows and exhibitions. So we would travel for about a week or 2 weeks. We'll put up an exhibition. So we're actually not living there, but we're actually working there for a period. So when you enter at immigration, you know, are you here for work? Are you here for holiday? Are you here for other reasons? And it's always good to have another document qualifying this, right? So I was wondering, like in terms of policy, have the BAC lobby for something like this where we can still use a certificate? You know, we're not living there, but we'll be working for a short period, and it's recognized at the immigration point. You know, so you don't have to be explaining yourself like, yeah, we're working at this trade show. You're doing what? Which is always the challenge of having to explain.
Sorry. You can present your skill certificate to the immigration department at that point when they ask, because they would normally ask particular questions on entry. And you can present your skill certificate at that point. You would advise them that you're not moving, but you are coming to work within the country for a particular time span. And that can be accepted as well.
Okay, great.
It says, Faith has a question. Can I apply even if I have not worked for a media house, but as a freelance writer, where it regards to letters from former employers? As a freelance, you should still be able to get a letter from whomever you would have been working attached to. So if you do freelance writing for The Nation or for The Advocate, Barbados Today, whichever entity, establishment, they should still be able to provide you with a letter which says this person works as a freelance writer and provides articles for us on occasion or within whatever type of time span, but you should still be able to receive a letter from them noting that for freelance work. Has one here question regarding your certificate, and then another regarding small business and exports. Okay, that's more of a statement. No. May I ask a question regarding your certificates, and then another regarding small business and exports? Rashida, if you're still on, you care to expand a bit for that for me? Rashida still on? Okay. I see Tasha has her hand raised.
Hi. I wanted to address the issue that I actually encountered with your association. I think it was 2018. I had a job offer from another island. So I took my documentation and everything to get the skills certificate. As you will see, my name is spelled T-A and it has a dash. My passport has the dash, but my birth certificate has T-A, a space, and then the S. So when I went, they were saying that I would have to go back to the registry with the birth certificate and get it corrected. So I came home, my mom said, you know, that it was always a dash, but some people put a space and some people actually put the dash. And because of that, I wasn't able to get the certificate. So they're saying that I would have to pay a lawyer to say, well, my name actually is spelled with a dash. So there I am now, have already accepted this job and I'm ready to go. I have 1 week to go. But luckily the company that I was going to work for in Kiawan, I was running the salon there, you know, I explained it to them. So when I got to the airport and I came through customs, my name and everything was already there. So I just went through easy. I mean, that would happen with every country. So my question is, do I really need to get a lawyer to pay all that money to get that done? Because the passport has it, the other documents have it, but the birth certificate, they don't have the actual dash, but actually has the space. And so I said to her, but listen, you don't have the dash, but there's a space. And she was adamant that they were not going to give me. So up to now, I still have not received that.
My question, what documents would you utilize to get the passport? Because I'm assuming the birth certificate would have been one of those documents.
Yes, and I use that all the time to renew, to get a new passport. So that's why I was surprised that, you know, she was giving me such a hard time, but she said that they can't honor it, that all documentation must be the same, and I never got it.
But that is true on our end. We are very meticulous in the review of the documentation because, as you can understand, once you are presenting documentation, there's always the chance that someone is producing fraudulent documents.
Right.
So we're always very particular in the type of documents that are required, and the fact that they must all look the same. So I can understand her resistance to providing the documents, but I don't see that you should need a lawyer. The registry should be able to correct that fairly easily.
That's what I thought, but she said I would need to get a lawyer, somebody to say that, yes, you know, it is TA dash, and to say that this is actually me. And I'm like, but
the registry didn't see the birth certificate sealed and everything as true.
Pardon?
The registry, when you took the birth certificate to the registry itself, and I mean, this is outside of the purview of this discussion, but the registry in Barbados did not see your birth certificate as the true one.
But that's the thing. Anytime I had to produce my birth certificate, and you fill out the form in the office, I would always put TA dash. Whenever I get back the documentation, they don't ever put the dash. They just have a space.
So at that point, you need to highlight to them that you have experienced issues with that, and let them provide you with some supporting documentation, whether it's a letter from them or whatever that is accepted. Because even outside of our institution, I'm sure that there may be other agencies that may also give you some pushback on that.
Yeah, I've had it before. Okay.
I see one other question here from you. And Winston and Frank kind of have a very similar question where they're speaking about persons who do not have formal qualifications under the particular category, maybe because they would have been older artisans or self-taught persons. In that vein, the skill certificate requires qualification, whether that be a vocational qualification, a master's, a bachelor's, it requires a qualification. So unfortunately, that's one area that we don't have any wiggle room on. It requires, if you are an artist, artisan, working within Barbados or living within Barbados from another country, that is, it may mean that you have to provide, from another country, you would have to provide some proof to the immigration department of your skill or of your business. If you are a self-employed person, immigration in Barbados, I know, has some provision for self-employed persons. But unfortunately, for the skill certificate, you need to have some form of qualification to apply. I think, Frank, you were unmuted. You wanted to add something to your question?
No, I was just wondering, because I have a certificate of registration from the NCF, right? But since I'm a self-taught artist, I have my own art gallery. And you mentioned about having 2 references. I was just wondering what 2 references would there be?
But if you're self-taught, if you're a registered business, you can bring the certificate of registration. That would be accepted.
Okay. All right. Yes, I'm a registered business.
And you say you have documentation from NCF as well?
Yeah, I have the certificate of registration as the barefoot artist. It says that I am registered as a Barbadian cultural practitioner, the barefoot artist.
Okay.
So I would have to bring this too?
You would have to bring that documentation as well.
Okay. And the business registration?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, we're coming into the end of our questions. Thank you. Okay. All right, actually, that was the last question.
Hi, I have a question.
One more, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to find out if you work freelancing, so you don't necessarily have an employer in the particular location, but you want to move there to try to get more jobs there, would you still be able to use a certificate and use that? Because obviously you're qualified for what you're seeking out work for.
So, okay, let me understand the question. you are a freelance, let's say photographer, and you want to move from Barbados to another country to do work in that other country,
Yes.
in that other member state, you've already received the certificate?
No, not yet. So
you would apply for the, well, we normally advise persons to apply for the certificate first before travel. So here as a freelance, as I would have noted before, for the person with the as a freelance editor, you would have done work for some entity, whether it's taking pictures, for taking photographs for newspapers, magazines, online websites, something. So those persons will be the persons to be able to provide you with those letters. It won't be an employer in the formal sense of employer, but it will be persons that you have done work for, which is what we require. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But the part I was trying to understand is, would you be permitted to use the certificate on entry, even though like you don't have a formal job offer on their end?
But that is something that but the certificate allows for free movement. Generally, people move because they have job offer, but if you choose to move into the country, once you have the certificate, you will just need to present that particular certificate at whichever agency in that country for them to able to stamp your passport, noting that you're free to work and live in that country. There are a lot of persons who come to Barbados and who apply, who come to Barbados, who conduct training in Barbados, whether they've come as UE graduates or UE students, and they decide that they want to work here, or there are opportunities here for them to work, and they choose to stay, and they apply for the skill certificate after. So it can be utilized. I'm going to allow for one more question. Any other burning questions?
Microsoft introduced a whole new way to take screenshots. We're going to show it to you along with some other ways.
Any other burning questions? No? Saw Rashida's mic. Rashida's is unmuted. You have a question, Rashida? Okay.
Before we go on, there's one more I'm seeing here from Jasmine. Before pursuing a degree outside of Barbados and an online program or course, should you determine if they are accredited in Barbados first, and what would be the process required to do so if it is required? Well, one of the services that we offer is the recognition of institutions or programs. If you see a program or institution of interest that you want to further your education at, I would encourage you to use that service, where our quality assurance team will investigate for you the credibility of that program. So I would encourage you to go on the website and just read some more about it, and that service will be offered for that to answer that question, definitely. And I think that's it.
It's been a very lively discussion.
Indeed.
I thank you all for participating and for listening, because I know some of the information might have been very dry, but I'm very thankful that you guys stayed on, listened, asked questions, participated, and I'm hoping to see, we have how many persons on today, Marcus? How many persons we have on?
Well, at maximum I saw 51. Right now,
I'm hoping to see about 51 applications for skill certificates coming through. Having gained this information now and this knowledge and understanding the benefits of the skill certificate and how it can assist if you do choose to work outside of Barbados in another Caribbean island, I'm hoping that I can see at least 51 applications coming in.
I believe so. I really believe so. I think this was a very engaging audience, and I know that we will be seeing some of these names come up in applications.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Also invite you guys to look out for some of the other sessions. You can tell your friends, your families, for persons who may qualify under different categories, for them to tune in for when we have those areas being discussed, and so we can have more in tune discussions on those other categories that fall under the skills certificate.
Yes, those announcements for the next webinars would be on our social media. So feel free to follow us on Instagram, Barbados Accreditation Council, and the same thing for Facebook.
Yes.
And you will see those announcements shortly. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all of the questions. It was a very engaging audience, and I will look forward to hearing some of your voices when you're making some calls about any other questions that you have. So thanks again.
Thank you all too.
Marcus, did we manage to get a photograph of this attractive group of persons?
Well, that's one thing that I should ask. Do you think everybody could turn on their
videos just
webcam so we can get one picture before we go? At 9 o'clock, in fact, we ended up leaving late. So we had them at the airport since nice. So they're at the airport and they have on their man from 6:30 to the next day at 1 o'clock. No. From Sunday at 6:30 to Monday night.
Frank, you can mute your mic for me.
In Austria.
There you go.
And great. Brilliant.
All right.
Thank you so much.
So thank you all for being such a responsive group of participants. It was really a delight to chat with you guys today.
Job well done.
Yes.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening all, and be safe. Stay safe.
Same to you.
Everybody
Thank
have a
you.
good day. Thanks a lot.
Right, exactly.